folks, Ariel over here at Pinus. For today I wanted to talk about our chickens. It is a cold winter's morning. I think it's about 18 degrees outside, not as cold as it was. We've had days below zero. And if you haven't been following along here, this is our little flock of Icelandic chickens. Back in the spring, spring here was end of May. These guys showed up as day-old chicks, and they have grown up here through the whole summer. We got straight-run chicks. I don't know if anybody's selling Icelandics as sex chicks, so that means approximately half will end up being male and half female. We had 26 chicks. I ordered 25. The gentleman sent an extra one, and we did have one that is Willie, who's still sitting on the perch over her head. I don't know if it was injured when it was hatched or injured in shipping. It passed away the first night peacefully amongst its chick mates. So anyway, then we had 25 and ended up with 15 hens, which was more than half hens, which was quite a lovely surprise. And the very noisy roosters grew up. We got to watch their behavior and figure out who was the most pleasant-tempered roosters as far as both their attitude toward people and toward the flock. One beautiful, beautiful rooster who was, and that's Butterscotch just coming down off the perch. I don't know if the camera could pick her up there. She almost landed on it. But he was just mean to everybody. He chased people, he chased dogs, he chased the other roosters, he chased the hens and beat them up. And from my experience with, poultry and stuff when I was growing up, some roosters are just mean, and we definitely didn't want to keep any of them. The only reason we wanted to keep any is we hope that these guys are going to reproduce some of their own chicks in the future. So we did need a couple daddy roosters to make that happen. So anyway, this guy that you're looking at is Golden Boy. Probably obvious why he's got his name. And the fellow you can hear crowing up there, who's probably staying up on the perch because Golden Boy's down here. They do get a little with each other, is Willie. He's mostly gray with a little red in his hair. He's totally laid back. Golden Boy's definitely the leader of the whole flock. So his name is Willie now, so we call him Willie. Anyhow, so that's the two roosters we kept. We did butcher the rest of the roosters and put them in the freezer. Now, Icelandic chickens, as you can probably tell here in proportion, are not super big birds. So they are, they ended up being dressed out as about a 3-pound bird. Very tasty, very rich, darker meat than you would see in your average grocery store chicken. And what's one of the things Clay and I really liked is they have a higher proportion of, like leg and thigh meat and less breast. Neither of us like the white meat part of a chicken. For some people that would be a con. For us, and so that's where we're at. We have the 15 ladies here. I think Goldilocks is in there laying us an egg right now. And everyone else here is scratching at their little morning grain. They also have free feed in that feeder you can probably see in the corner anytime they want. And this is their water. But I like to give them a little extra grain in the morning, especially when it's such a cold morning here. And they got lots of other little extras. Kitchen scraps. I got a few other friends who save any, green stuff they have for me. Lettuce that was getting a little limp, or herbs that were starting to go over the hill or anything like that. And these to eat all of that. Like right here, I see the remains of a parsley stalk that they've eaten every single leaf off of. Anyway, you think you want that? Yeah. Blackie, she's the one looking at this potential parsley stalk meal. She is, okay, you can have it. She's been a little troublemaker because before the snow got deep, she decided that the only place in the whole world she wanted to lay eggs was, when I still have the barn door closed just to keep the draft from coming through here overnight. It was very windy and blowing snow overnight. but they are outside most in the summer. They were out all the time, but she decided the only place that she could possibly lay an egg, instead of anywhere within the over 3 acres that we have fenced and that she was free to roam, was outside the fence in the neighbor's horse pasture. So it took me a bit to figure out how she was getting over the fence. It's a 5-foot fence. All of them have one wing clipped. Icelandic chickens are very good flyers. But I watched her, and she would go up to the fence and she'd walk back and forth looking up at it and back and forth, and then she'd eventually jump and hit the fence a couple feet up and then just scramble straight to the top and go over it. I didn't want her doing this because something was going to eat her outside there. There's a lot of free roaming ranch dogs, quite a few big ranch cats, and that's not even mentioning coons and things like that. So anyway, she now has both wings clipped, and the snow's deeper, which makes it pretty hard for her to launch because it's so soft, cleanly like that. So she, yeah, you are the biggest, baddest rooster we know. She was on coop arrest for a little bit, and I think maybe she's gotten over her idea of fleeing the property. Everyone else has been very well behaved. So a little bit about Icelandic chickens. I chose them for our homestead because when I was looking at a breed to choose, my priorities were, I obviously wanted something that was going to do very well in the cold, since much of our year is cold. We even get freezes and sometimes snow through the summer. And I wanted a breed that had a tendency to be pretty self-sufficient and had not lost all their natural chicken instincts, like hunting and scratching for and reproducing, raising their own babies. Some of the breeds that have been heavily selected over the years for either really heavy egg production or really heavy meat production have kind of lost those traits over time. They don't anymore seem to remember how to raise their own chicks and such. So I was looking at more heritage breeds, and Iceland is obviously a pretty cold part of the world. These guys' history is that I guess their ancestors were brought there by the Vikings about 1,000 years ago. It's kind of cool. Clay's family is Danish, and he traces some of his heritage to Vikings. And they're called variously Viking chickens, or there's some Icelandic name that I have no hope of pronouncing correctly that translates to something like heap chickens. Like a pile, they tend to be well known for being very, very good at foraging for themselves and going through compost piles and such, and that has been our experience through the summer. They foraged outside and just demolished any kind of bug that was on the property. I actually have some freeze-dried bugs here for them in the winter. No, there's not. Now that there's not many bugs running around out there in the snowdrifts, these are freeze-dried soldier fly larvae, or sometimes they're called bone worms. Anyway, they love them. This gives them a little extra variety in their day and a chance to still chase down bugs. But they hunted down everything. They were offered supplemental feed freely through the summer as well, and they pretty much ignored it and hardly ate a bite. They just found all the food they wanted. They scratched all through the edge of the woods. There were several very, very large stumps in there from old trees when we bought the place, and a couple of them had massive ant colonies living in them. These guys found them, and as far as I can tell, every ant on the property has been turned into an egg. We don't have a single ant left. So that was good. You can have some, Hannah. They are a little bit more flighty than some breeds. They do have some more of their wild instincts. These ladies are not real cuddly. They can be held, but I would say they more tolerate petting than seem to really enjoy it at all. They kind of just prefer to be left with their chicken mates, but they will let you handle them. It's just not their favorite thing in the world. This is Rafina, named for her reddish feathers. She'll let me show off her pretty colors. I love her little poofy hairdo. Yeah, you're such a pretty girl. You are. They're friendly enough for me. I don't need a chicken that's as clingy as our cat Velcro, because that would just make it hard to work. So, yeah, they've been very, very good at finding their own food, and even through the winter here when they're eating much more supplemental feed because there's not a whole lot of, seeds, plants, or insects outdoors in the snowdrifts, though they still like to go out and scratch through everything and find everything, especially in the areas like where I, split firewood. They scratch through all the bark bits and stuff that come off there to find any bugs or spiders or larvae that have fallen out of there. So that's been great. They eat very little feed. They're a smaller bird. They produce eggs that are about, I'd say a grocery store medium size. They're a little smaller than, if you go and just buy large eggs at the grocery store. But these hens weigh about 2.5 pounds. A lot of big, like Rhode Island Reds and some of the big egg-laying breeds, which have 6-pound hens that are producing that size of eggs, and they eat a lot more food. So I'm very, very fine with our medium-sized eggs. And hi, ladies. And as you can see, there's a ton of variety in there. Their colors, in their comb shapes, over time as they hopefully will reproduce, and we'll have some of our own chicks here this spring. Willie, who's not come down yet, he has more of a short rose comb, and several of the others do. Goldilocks, who's in there, does 50 Shades of Grey over there do, and we'll definitely be preferentially keeping more birds with compact short combs versus the big long spiky ones like Golden Boy has, just because that big fleshy bit on top is the most prone to frostbite and such in cold weather. He may have frostbit a few of the tips of his comb. From what I've read, when that happens, the tissue just kind of dies and falls off, and the comb may look a little funny, but it's not going to hurt them. That's Goldilocks laying an egg. Anyway, so the shorter combs are better definitely for our really cold area. Another thing I like them is these birds do have a tendency to still have their natural maternal instincts, and they are hopefully going to turn out to be nice broody mamas in the spring and raise us some more babies. Oh, back to the eggs. They also don't tend to lay an egg every single day like some of those bigger egg layers. I think the statistic I saw is that an Icelandic hen lays an egg about every 4.2 days, so approximately every other. And another main reason that I wanted to work with this breed was that they were well known for being good at laying through long, cold, dark winters, which would make sense if you were selecting chickens, and when both boys get together, it's loud. If you're living in Iceland for the last 1,000 years, you weren't, putting a heater in your coop or any little LED lights or anything like that, so you would select the hens who definitely produced the most eggs through the winter. And so far that's held up. Right over the 2 days beside the shortest day of the year, we got 9 eggs one day and 6 the other, so if you add those together for laying every other day, that would mean presumably each of the 15 hens laid an egg right there on the shortest day of the year. So we've been very happy with all the eggs we have been getting from these ladies. They're little bucket nest boxes. They seem to like pretty well. Like I've read from most people who have chickens. Those are 5 identical buckets to me, but they seem to have a preference every day for which one everybody wants to lay in. One day it'll be, if Goldilocks is over there right now, there might have been actually several others ladies who laid before her already this morning, I'm not sure, but I'll find 4 or 5 or 6 eggs in one bucket, and sometimes they'll even line up and squawk at each other to be, and fight over the one bucket and ignore 4 identical buckets. But, one day I'll be that bucket, and the next day I'll be this one, and the next day I'll be one in the middle. They're funny little creatures.
Near as I can tell, this indignation is about 3 hens want to use the exact same box at the same time. Nobody can poke their eggs in a different one. We all want the one you're in. Silly ladies.
But so far, we are happy with our Icelandic hens here. They are I think they're called threatened. They're not called endangered species when it's a, domestic livestock breed instead of wildlife. But there's not a lot of them in the world. There's a few thousand in Iceland and a little over 1,000 in the U.S. If you are interested in getting your own, there are a small handful of breeders in this country working to preserve them. I'm hoping that, if we get our flock well established here and they actually become reproductive, that we might be able to supply some Icelandic birds to others in the Wyoming area that are interested in them. But the gentleman that these came from is David Grote. You can look up Whippoorwill Farms or David Grote, his name. If I remember, I'll link down below in the video. But he's been involved in importing birds directly from Iceland to try to help preserve this breed. And another really fascinating thing about them is that they are, apparently when they run DNA tests, they're about 78% genetically unique, with genes that they do not share with any other domesticated I would presume that came from whichever birds originally were brought to Iceland and got isolated there for that 1,000 years and reproduced with each other. Just had some different genetics when they came out of the jungle than most other breeds. So anyway, they're kind of a unique genetic treasure. They're also fun to watch and fun to be around. They do love to play in the snow. They love to dig in the side of dirt piles and do their dust bathing. They go under the lean-to here in the winter and do their dust bathing there because there's dry dust there. I've tried putting a pan in here that they could dust bathe in. They didn't seem very impressed with that. They would rather go outside and do their dust bathing out there.
This is the side of the topsoil pile. Chickens love digging into it. The sunny side. If Velcro wouldn't jump on me, I could hold the camera steady. They like to dig into the sunny side there and do their dust bait.
They do like to perch up high. That perch that you can't see from that camera angle is, it's probably close to, they're slightly different heights, probably close to 12 feet in the air. If these guys had the option, they would probably perch 90 feet in the air. They like to be way up high. And before we got this bird barn finished and the perches up there and stuff, they were trying to roost on the roof on the outside of it. So they are more like a wild bird in some of those traits, which was something I wanted. I like animals that still have their natural instincts to do things more naturally. So this is our growing Icelandic, flock. We will, I'm sure you'll see videos of them in between, but we'll definitely be back in the spring with, not to count chicks before they're hatched, some little baby chicks running around here that these guys have produced. And in the meantime, that's our thoughts about, I can actually see the egg. I don't know if the camera can pick that up. I can see the egg. She is just about to lay it. She's getting herself all arranged in there. So far, I'm really enjoying the breed. Have no plans to switch breeds or add other breeds at this point. If we can continue to get them to reproduce here for us, then we will hopefully continue to have all the eggs we can eat. And of course, you always end up with spare extra roosters because you don't need that many boys around. And even though they don't make massive amounts of meat per bird, the fact that they got to being a 3-pound roasting rooster by running around outside eating weeds and bugs without hardly any supplemental feed, so almost for free, that works out well for me. And they do mature slower, like most heritage breeds. We didn't butcher them until they were about 16, 17 weeks old. So that's a consideration if you're used to raising something like Cornish crosses and you're turning them over in 6, 7, 8 weeks. This is slower, but we also spent almost nothing to feed them that entire time, and we were taking care of the other birds anyway, so that really wasn't an issue for us. Anyway, so we really enjoy having our little heritage Viking chickens running around here. I'm going to go do some other things for the morning, but hopefully that's a little helpful rundown on our experiences with the breed so far, if you're wondering, and I'll continue to do updates as time goes on and let you know if our thoughts change. But right now I'm very happy that we selected this breed to work with, and hopeful that we can be helping to preserve such cool heritage genetics, and also just have all these pretty fun and noisy birds to watch and interact with. So that's it. Hope you guys all have a lovely day.
over here at Fineth. Thank you so much for watching these videos and spending some of your very valuable time choosing to do that. We hope you found something that was useful, educational, helpful, maybe save someone else some time and trouble, or just something just plain beautiful. If you don't want to miss any videos, subscribe and hit the bell. And thanks for coming along on our journey as we build a new little homestead with our tiny house and everything to come.